This is 4.4, part 2. You don't need to write these down. You'll get some practice later on. But be careful when we identify the quadrant that the angle falls in. So question 1. My sine is a positive and my cosine is a positive. In which quadrant will this angle fall? Quadrant 1. It's telling me that, remember, sine is positive and cosine is positive. So it has to be in this first quadrant. Sine is y over r and x over r. So they're both positives. So this is quadrant 1. All right, let's go to the second one. Now it's saying the sine is negative and the cosine is negative. Which quadrant does that fall in? Quadrant 3. The sine is negative, the cosine is negative, down here. So negative x, negative y. You agree? Okay. The next two are a little bit more challenging. Now it's saying the sine is negative and the tangent is positive. So which quadrant would that fall in? So I'd have to have a negative y value. So a negative y value would happen either here, here, or there. But then tangent represents y over x. So I know this has to be a negative, and if I want my tangent to be positive, then my x also has to be a negative. So which quadrant would that fall in?
3.
Quadrant 3 also. Yep, quadrant 3. Last one. My secant is negative and my cotangent is negative. So secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. So cosine is x over r. So this has to be r over x. And it's a negative. So which of those two pieces has to be the negative then? The x. So we know we have a negative x value. So it has to be either in, so far, this quadrant or in that one. Then it says the cotangent is negative. Cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent. Tangent is y over x. So this would be x over y. And that value has to be a negative. Well, I already said that has to be a negative. So then what must my y be then? Y would have to be positive. So which quadrant do I have a negative x and a positive y?
2.
Quadrant 2. Yep. Right up here. All right. That's leading us to what we're doing next. Here's what they might give you. Write this problem down. They'll give you two givens. One of the function's values and another constraint. In this case, they tell us that the angle falls in quadrant 3. And we want to go out and find the 6 trig functions. One of them's been given, but we have 5 more to do. So when you're doing these, draw the picture. Make sure you have all 3 pieces, the x, the y, and the r. So we know our angle falls down here in quadrant 3. So let's take apart what this cosine of negative 4/5 represents. So to find the cosine of an angle, that's x over r. So which piece is the x value? Negative 4. Which piece is the r value? 5. Which piece is going to give you the negative? Is it the x or the r? The x has to be a negative. Do I know the y value? So I know x is -4. I know r is 5. And do I know y? Not yet. How do I find the y? Pythagorean theorem again. So I know I have to go in a negative direction 4 units. And then I have 5 units this way. And then I have some unknown y value. Will my y value be positive or negative? Has to be a negative in that quadrant. So let's go out and use the Pythagorean theorem to find y. Woo! Lost it there for a minute. All right. So let's find y. So same equation. X is -4. Y is our unknown. Our radius is 5. You might recognize this popular right triangle also as a 3, 4, 5 right triangle from geometry. So we solve for y, subtract 16. Then square root it is 3. Now we said earlier that that y value has to be a negative in that quadrant. Students make mistakes because they forget. Sometimes you have to be careful on your signs. Now we can go identify the 6 trig functions. So the sign. The sign is y over r. So -3 over 5. Cosine is x over r. So -4 over 5. Tangent, y over x. So -3 over -4. Negative, negative, positive 3/4. Now we just reciprocate to get the inverse functions. So cosecant now is -5 over 3, -5 over 4, and 4/3. We'll do one more and then we're done. All right, so now we give you the cosecant of theta equals 4. And the cotangent of theta must be less than 0, so a negative. And we want to find the 6 trig functions. So what's the fraction for cosecant? Reciprocal of the sine. Sine is y over r, so this must be r over x. So now we know.
R over y.
What is it? R over y, thank you. So then 4 goes with the radius. What's the y then? 1 over 1, yep. So we now know those two pieces. So we know y equals 1, x is unknown, and then the radius is 4. Now let's check one other thing. The cotangent has to be less than 0. It has to be negative. So cotangent is found by reciprocal of the tangent. So y over x, this has to be x over y. If I know this is 1, and I need to have a negative come out of there, is my x going to be negative or positive? This has to be a negative value because I have a negative cotangent. So which quadrant will this fall in? Quadrant 2. A positive y and a negative x. My theta will fall in quadrant 2. So my x value on this picture, we don't know how far left we're going to go. We don't know this point yet. But we know the y value is 1. So this is 1 unit up. So far left we don't know. And then the radius is 4. So what do we have to find first? In this case?
X.
The x. So now we use Pythagorean theorem again, find the x. And then we can go out and find the 6 trig functions. So x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So x squared plus 1 equals 16. Subtract, and you get 15. Square root it. Square root of 15. Now check the sign. X has to be positive or negative? Negative. So now we can come back up here. In this picture, x equals negative square root of 15. Now we can answer the question of the 6 trig functions. Sine is y over r, 1/4. Cosine, x over r, negative square root of 15 over 4. Tangent, y over x, 1 over negative square root of 15. Can I leave it like that? Nope, rationalize it. Alright, now let's reciprocate. Cosecant, reciprocal of the sine, 4 over 1 or 4. And then, are you good with the last two? Okay, and be careful to rationalize that. Show you what your assignment is. Just say 1, 5 there.